In this video, I'll tell you about another new game mode from the folks over at OnePageRules and why it gives me some video game vibes. This video might be pretty short this week. After last week's busy launch of our new game, Repent, Ye Foolish Gods, pachow if you want to watch the video, and link in the description if you're interested. Well, this weekend is the Tabletop Minions Expo, a little mini tiny very small convention that I run here in town, and so I'm mostly preparing for that this week. If you're still thinking about coming to the expo, you can check the link for that, which is also down in the description below. However, the folks at OnePageRules did something really interesting recently, and I thought I'd talk about it here by talking a little bit about video games first. I used to be really into video games from about the mid 1990s until about the mid 2000s or so. It was my main hobby. I wasn't really playing much in the way of tabletop games, and I wasn't painting miniatures or really anything, right? Me and a friend ran a LAN party that we grew and grew and grew. If you remember what a LAN party was, you know what I mean? But we eventually got to the point where our biggest quarterly event had 98 attendees, and it was a ton of fun. But then sometime in mid 2000s, I sort of slowed way down on the video games, and then of course, the tabletop wargaming miniature painting became my main hobbies. But I still played some video games here and there. These days, my video game tastes have changed quite a good deal. I'm not really into big 70-hour CRPGs and stuff like that anymore. I'm not usually into multiplayer FPS games like I used to be either, with the battlefields and all that kind of stuff. Now, I'll admit, I'm absolutely looking forward to playing GTA 6 as soon as that comes out this fall, I hope. That week actually also might be kind of a pretty short video week as well when that game comes out. But mostly these days I play, roguelikes and roguelites. They're slightly different from each other, but mostly if you don't know what a roguelike or roguelite is, they're games that you play until you lose. That's kind of what ties them all together. You don't play for a while and then, save your game and then come back later. You play and keep playing until you lose. And you will lose. They're designed for that. There's no way to win those types of games generally. You play until you eventually lose. More and more enemies, more and more levels, but eventually one of the computer-controlled bad guys will get you, and that'll be the end of your run. And then if you want to play some more, you basically kind of start over and do another run. It's about seeing how far you can get, having an epic run. Currently, a roguelite called Brotato is my favorite one. In it, you are an egg. I don't know why it's called Brotato, because you're obviously playing as an egg. And you fight through waves of weird monsters and then just basically see how long you can make it. Uncle Adam, why are you telling us all of this? Well, for one thing, you should try out Brotato. Just, putting that out there. And more importantly, the folks at OnePageRules have just recently released a free add-on to pretty much all of their games, and they're calling it Horde mode. And honestly, it reminds me very much of a roguelike style video game, except that you're not playing as an egg named Brotato, but other than that, instead, you are playing either Grimdark Future, which is their sci-fi game, or Grimdark Future Firefight, which is their sci-fi skirmish game, or you're playing Age of Fantasy game, Age of Fantasy Skirmish, or even Age of Fantasy Regiments, which is, the kind of rank and flank style game. Or you can even play it in the new Star Quest and Fantasy Quest games that they put out also for free, which I mentioned recently in a video as well. Pachow. To play, all you need to do is download the free Horde mode PDF for the OPR game that you want to play, and then also get, the free solo and co-op PDF, if you plan to play solo or co-op, of course. You don't have to, however. You can play this Horde mode with a person controlling the Horde if you're like kind of more interested in adversarial play. So there's one person who's controlling the defenders and one person controlling the Horde. As is the way with games from OnePageRules, how you play is always up to you. Once you've got your free PDFs, the defending player, the, again, non-Horde player, builds their armies or strike teams or warbands or heroes or whatever, depending on the game they'll be playing. Then you'll build the enemy list to make up the Horde part of, Horde mode. Again, you'll build up this group of enemies using the rules specific to the game that you're playing. So, for example, if you're playing Horde mode in Age of Fantasy Regiments, which is basically a fantasy kind of, again, like I said, rank and flank style game, then you'd build your opposing Horde according to those rules, which of course would mean that the Horde would be in blocks of troops, like in a normal game of regiments. If you were playing Age of Fantasy Skirmish, well then your Horde would be a bunch of individual models and such. After the forces are all built, then you set up the board and you set up some objectives, you deploy forces, and you start the game. If you're playing co-op, then it'll be best to try and coordinate the two friendly forces to help each other to stay alive as long as possible as the enemy Horde tries to, kill you both and destroy the objectives on the board. As you fight, you will start to gain bonuses that you can apply to your troops or warbands or heroes, whatever, which is also very much like video game roguelikes, and it makes each new run new and different. And then basically you play until all of the defending units have been either shaken or destroyed, or the objectives have finally been destroyed by the Horde, or, until you decide to quit because it's getting late or you have, work in the morning or something like that. Life can always certainly get in the way of gaming fun. We all know this. Alternatively, you can also set a max number of rounds if you also can't really spend all day playing because you have other stuff to do, with like life and all that. But you don't have to. You could set up a really fun day of Horde mode, like take a break at some point and like eat lunch or something, maybe grill out, do a barbecue, whatever, and then, head back into it. And if you're playing Horde mode with either Star Quest or Fantasy Quest, like I mentioned earlier in the video, you have new options in the online play guide web app thing, right? Like now you can select solo Horde mode or co-op Horde mode so that you can play with your quest heroes against a horde of enemies. It works like kind of the regular quest games, but now it's all about staying alive as long as possible to get your high score and less about like individual missions. That said, the software will still level up your heroes as you play and, defeat the units in the Horde. As always, I love that OnePageRules continues to add new free ways to play their already very, very inexpensive games. I also find it interesting when the world of tabletop wargaming borrows things from the world of like video games, unless it's subscriptions or loot boxes or like season pass stuff, then I find it far less interesting. But grabbing ideas like roguelike mechanics and adding it into a miniature wargame allows you to see if you're a bad enough dude to fight a horde of zombies or robots or, whatever, and see how long you can last and what you finally get for a high score. So take a look if you're interested in fighting a horde and seeing how far you can get. Again, it's free and works with most of the different, OnePageRules games out there that you might like, including the newer hero-style games like Star Quest and Fantasy Quest. It makes me want to paint up even more of like a horde of evil dudes to fight against pretty soon. What do you think? Does Horde mode sound like it's right up your alley? Are you interested in it as a solo game or with friends? And do you think that there should be a Brotato miniatures game? Let us all know down in the comments below. And if you like content like this, as short as it might be this week, some depressmentation of the like button, you can hit it very quickly, very short depressmentation of the like button, always does help the channel. And hit the hype button if you are on mobile, like your phone or whatever. That also helps. While you're hitting buttons, there's a subscribe button around there somewhere. You could hit that and get these kind of videos pushed in front of your eyeballs nearly every single Friday, unless the algorithm's feeling weird that day. Thanks for watching. Coming up in mid-June, come visit your Uncle Adam and play all kinds of demos and miniatures games. Take some classes from some of the world's best painters, and just have fun at a little wargaming expo in central Wisconsin. It's the Tabletop Minions Expo, June 13th and 14th, 2026 in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's a small event with game demos, some painting classes, some vendors, and some fun. If you run some games as a game master, then your attendance is free. All the info you need is at www.tabletopminions.org/tmx. Link in the description below. Hope to see you there.